On our first anniversary, I overheard my husband and mother-in-law discussing their shocking plans to exploit me and my family's wealth. Tristan and I just marked our second anniversary. Even though we think the date is not 2 years ago, we have been a thing for nearly 4 years. I stumbled upon my husband on Bumble after my friends convinced me to give the app a shot during my long single stint. We had hit a rough patch early on when I discovered he was having inappropriate conversations with his exes. There were messages and chats that crossed the line, causing some heated disagreements between us. It was a challenging time, and we were on the brink of breaking up. However, Tristan reassured me that he would make things right, and thankfully, he kept his promise. Since then, it's been a much smoother ride for us. I have met Tristan's mom, Hillary, and I really liked her, but unfortunately, the feeling isn't mutual. Hillary, a widow since her husband passed away from a heart attack years ago, has always been close to Tristan. He's a bit of a mama's boy, turning to her for advice, which used to bother me, but I've learned to accept it. I come from an upper-middle-class family with parents who own multiple businesses. Growing up, my brother and I had a comfortable life. Although our parents supported us by covering college expenses, buying our first car, and helping us secure a house, they also instilled the value of finding our own paths in life. I worked as a real estate agent and had been doing quite well for myself. My brother, David, works as a software engineer and is married to his wife, Kim. They have 2 beautiful daughters who are absolutely adorable. I love my nieces and spend time with them whenever I can. My husband, on the other hand, had a hard life. He used to work in customer support, and understandably so, he has always hated his job for as long as I can remember. Working in the customer support department can be a brutal business where you have to interact with different types of customers who can sometimes take out their frustration on you. Tristan always seemed pissed after his shift ended. He had told me that his dream was to become a YouTuber. He wanted to travel the world and document his journey in different countries for his viewers. Unfortunately, he had a lot of college debt that he was working hard to repay. When our relationship started getting more and more serious, I told him about my family and our generational wealth. He did not believe me, but was shocked after he Googled my family. Mostly, he was fine with it, but occasionally I would hear him complaining about how I never had to work for anything. This really hurt me sometimes, as apart from what my parents offered me, I also worked hard to establish myself. I still continue to have a job and have never expected my parents to fund my lifestyle. When he moved into my house before we got married, he insisted that he wasn't going to pay rent or even split the utility bill. I was fine with him not paying rent, as I owned the house, but I did want him to split the bills with me as we both used them. This seemed to piss him off, and he started to insist that I am wealthy enough to pay for the both of us. We argued back and forth, and I finally caved in. I had to cut back on a lot to pay for all our bills, which increased significantly now that we were a 2-member family at the house. Even after marriage, I have continued to pay for everything around the house, and he doesn't spend a penny on us. I even pay for our dates or our yearly vacations, because Tristan insists that I should be the one spending on him instead of the other way around. He spent his money only on himself or his mother. He loves splurging on stuff like diamond rings or necklaces for her, even if it wasn't her birthday. It used to bother me sometimes because he never gave me any gifts. I remember once on my birthday, he gave me a Target coupon, and when I got upset, he told me that I was richer than him, so it was wrong of me to expect anything more than this. This made me sad because I never wanted any expensive gifts, but his lack of interest bummed me out, and eventually I stopped expecting any gifts from him. Now, coming on to the incident when Tristan and I celebrated our first anniversary, I had gone all out and invited our close family and friends for dinner. I woke him up with breakfast in bed and took him out for a couple of spas. We were overall having a great day, and when we returned in the evening, we had dinner and drinks with our guests. Later, after dinner, everyone was having a good time with their drinks. I overheard my mother-in-law and husband chatting and laughing in the next room, so I decided to join them. As I was about to walk in, I overheard Tristan saying how ugly I was. I froze, unable to comprehend if I heard him right. He then went on to complain about how he couldn't wait to divorce me one day and take half of my wealth. Hillary joked how he should try to focus on all the luxuries he has now and continue to live like a king without spending a dime. Tristan nodded, telling her that he wanted to date me for a few months and dump me. But after finding out about my family, he knew he had to put a ring on me. They clinked their glasses and continued to chat. Their words absolutely shocked me to my core. I had never in my wildest imagination even thought that my husband could talk about me this way, let alone with his own mother. I knew Hillary didn't like me, but I never realized the extent to which she hated me. It was a heartbreaking moment for me to realize that my husband had married me for my family's money. I wanted to break into tears, thinking how he thought I was not good-looking enough for him. Since that evening, I started spiraling downwards. You have to understand that I loved him so much, and I was afraid that if I confronted him, He might admit the truth and we would break up. I couldn't. Imagine my life without him. He might have seen me as a meal ticket, but I had imagined my entire future with him. It started affecting my mental health so much that I couldn't get intimate with him anymore. Whenever he initiated physical contact with me, I shunned away. Tristan started noticing this and asked why I didn't want to spend time with him anymore. I couldn't tell him what I heard, so I made up excuses related to work stress. Every day, I kept going into a shell, lost in my thoughts about how my marriage was a complete failure. David and I talk regularly, and I guess he started seeing a change in my behavior. To make me feel better, he decided to come to visit me for a couple of days. With my brother around me, I did feel a bit better. He and I have always been close, and even though I couldn't tell him the conversation between my husband and mother-in-law, I felt comforted by his presence. One afternoon, my brother and I were chilling on my room's balcony, having a chat, when we caught snippets of Tristan and his mom's conversation. They were lounging by the pool in front of our house, oblivious to the fact that their voices carried all the way up to my balcony. I can't remember all the specifics of the conversation because my mind tends to blank in stressful situations, but I'll do my best to recall it for you. It went something like this. So, have you thought more about when you'll be divorcing her? Oh, I can't keep doing this any longer. She doesn't even kiss me or hug me anymore. I'm tired of being married to her and can't wait to divorce her so I can finally take half of her money and have some fun. At this point, my brother David, who can hear everything, turns to look at me with raised eyebrows. I was so embarrassed by what they were saying that I was on the verge of crying. Tristan continued to say he was going to stick it out for one more year to ask for even more in alimony. He asked his mother if she wanted to be there when he would break the news to me. Hillary laughed and agreed. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I got up, went into my room, and completely broke down. The pain was unbearable, and I couldn't fathom what I had done to make him even consider leaving me. David tried his best to comfort me and was so furious that he wanted to confront Tristan then and there, but I stopped him. In the following days, I started confiding in my brother more, sharing all the details about my marriage with Tristan and how he treated me. I explained how I ended up covering all the expenses at home because Tristan made me feel guilty for being wealthier and expected me to take care of him. David was genuinely shocked. I went on to mention how Tristan never got me any gifts for my birthdays or anniversaries, but insisted on me buying him expensive gifts from different brands for his birthdays. David insisted I consult a lawyer, fearing that Tristan might be eyeing my money, and because he earned less, I could end up paying him a lot. Initially, I didn't want to think about it, but David kept pushing. Finally, I met with a lawyer named Sam, a friend of David's. After sharing my story, Sam asked if I had a prenup, and I shook my head, admitting I didn't. He said a prenup would have saved me a lot of trouble. But there was still time to come up with a plan to protect myself from this marriage. Sam shared some scary stories of people marrying for financial gain and divorce. Talking to him made me realize that Tristan might have intended to use me for my wealth and perhaps never truly loved me. It broke my heart to realize the truth about my husband and our marriage. In the following months, I continued meeting my lawyer in secret, keeping it hidden from Tristan. With the advice of my lawyer, I sat down to talk to my parents and tell them everything. They were just as shocked as I was because they believed Tristan was a good guy. Explaining that my lawyer suggested taking action regarding the apartment I owned and the money in my bank account, my dad recommended selling the property right away and moving into a rented place. He assured me that I could hand over the proceeds from the house sale, and they would eventually return it to me as my inheritance. After pondering it, it seemed like the best way forward. Not wanting Tristan to catch on, I decided to keep the truth about selling my house under wraps. Instead, I told him about a supposed termite problem, explaining that we needed to refurbish the house. I suggested we move into an apartment temporarily to avoid disturbance from the workers. Despite his initial annoyance, Tristan reluctantly agreed, and we settled into a smaller rented apartment. While Tristan grumbled about the reduced space, I secretly rejoiced that my plan was unfolding undetected. Using my real estate expertise, I swiftly sold my house and handed the proceeds to my parents. Throughout this process, Tristan remained clueless. I don't think he anticipated that someone like me, who had always been accommodating to his demands, would pull off such a clever move behind his back. With a significant hurdle crossed, I was ready to set the next phase of my plan in motion. I began grumbling to Tristan daily about how tough my job had become, expressing that I was growing to dislike it and contemplating quitting. Tristan got visibly upset, worrying about how we'd afford to live if I quit. He insisted I should stick with my job, even if I didn't like it, for the sake of paying our rent and bills on time. Pushing back, I told him I had taken care of things for so long and needed a break, so I handed in my resignation letter. When I quit, Tristan was furious. I went to inform him that we needed to split the bills and from now on, since I wasn't earning anymore. Watching his face change color, I couldn't help but giggle as he realized he would have to start contributing to the household. My last phase of the plan was to transfer all my investments into David's name. I trusted him, knowing that once I divorced Tristan, I could reclaim these assets. I had everything prepared to go through with the divorce, and even had the papers ready to serve him in the coming days when suddenly something unexpected occurred. My parents passed away due to an unexpected car accident. To say I was devastated would not even come close to what I felt. My family meant everything to me, and my brother and I cried for hours because it was so hard to believe they were really gone. On the night of my parents' death, as I was still in shock and getting ready for the funeral the next day, Tristan barged into my room, insisting we needed to talk. With tear-filled eyes, I looked at him, hoping for some understanding. Instead, he coldly mentioned how he hated emotional women and asked if I could stop crying for a minute so we could have a conversation. Devastated, I just wanted him to leave me alone. Then, he told me that he had just driven by my house and was shocked to find that someone else was staying there. He asked me what the hell was happening. Fed up with playing games, I wanted to be brutally honest with him. I told him straight that I had sold my house. His eyes widened in surprise, and he demanded to know why I did it without consulting him. I firmly stated it was my house, and I could do what I wanted. He asked me what I did with all the money from the sale, so I lied, claiming I gave it all to my parents who needed the money. This seemed to freak him out, and he started getting really extremely agitated. He pressed further, asking why I gave the money to my parents, and I told him they had bought the house for me, so it felt right to return every penny to them. Tristan took a deep breath and unleashed a barrage of abusive words. He called me an ugly, stupid girl and couldn't believe I had dared to sell our house without his permission. He heartlessly questioned me how I would get back the money now when my parents were dead. I had stayed calm, but when Tristan turned violent, I lost my temper. I reminded him that he had no right to dictate my life, especially when he was nothing but a leech. I demanded he leave my parents' house so I could grieve in peace. This angered Tristan, and he started shouting, expressing he couldn't handle it anymore, and declared he wanted a divorce. Smirking, I reached for my bag, pulled out the divorce papers, and held them up to his face. Laughing, he looked puzzled at first, but then realized what they were. I served him the papers and asked him to get out of my house. Amidst Tristan's shouts, David, likely awakened by the ruckus, stormed into my room. Looking at us, he must have understood what was happening. I told my brother that I served Tristan the divorce papers and I wanted him to get out of our place. Tristan retorted that he couldn't believe he had married such an ugly woman like me and was going to take me for everything. My brother, who is normally composed, completely lost it. At hearing his words, his whole face went black in rage, and he landed a solid punch on Tristan, who stumbled backward and fell down with a bleeding nose. We watched in horror as Tristan lay on the floor, twisting and turning in pain. I calmed my brother down as he looked like he could give out a few more punches to him while Tristan continued to shout and howl. I warned him that I would call the police if he didn't leave our property. Everyone in town respected my parents. I made it clear they'd support their grieving child, and Tristan would likely be arrested on the spot. Tristan whimpered and left the house. The next day, I attended the funeral surrounded by supportive family members. I shared everything with them, and they were just as shocked as I was to discover Tristan's true nature. They stand by my decision to end the marriage and have my back. On the other hand, I have received several nasty threats and voice messages from Tristan and his mom over the past couple of days. Hillary's pretty mad that I served divorce papers to her son. She's furious about me selling the house without giving them a heads up and keeps saying how a wife shouldn't do anything without her husband's permission. Now she's asking me to rethink the divorce, claiming I blindsided Tristan by hitting him with the papers. Although I don't believe I'm an a-hole, I wanted to know just in case everyone else questions as well. AITA for serving my divorce papers to my husband on the day my parents passed away. Should I have given him a warning or a heads up before serving him the papers? Update 1. Thank you to everyone who left a positive and supportive comment under my post. For those worried that Tristan might go after my inheritance during the divorce, I'm relieved to share that I live in a state where inheritances are considered separate property and can't be claimed by your partner. That's why my lawyer suggested giving the house sale proceeds to my parents and transferring my other investments to my brother. Tristan still has no clue about me handing over my investments to my brother, so he's in for another shock when he finds out. I plan to break the news when our lawyers officially sit down to discuss the divorce proceedings, returning home with David to pack my things and leave the apartment. Tristan seemed surprised to see me but didn't react as explosively as before. He silently watched as we packed. Just before leaving, he asked why I was doing all this, urging me to reconsider the divorce. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Maybe it was the grief of losing my parents or the irony of the divorce, but I found it amusing. Tristan stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I then dropped the bomb, revealing I overheard him and his mother talking on our first anniversary about marrying me for money. Tristan started to protest, but I silenced him. explaining it was the second time I heard them discussing leaving me, solidifying the plan after our marriage. He looked horrified as I recounted the details and asked why I never told him. I replied that I knew there was no point in fighting with him, so I did everything I could to make sure he could never benefit from me financially with our divorce. Walking away, I felt a sense of victory. I recognize that this is just a small battle, and the real challenge lies ahead when the divorce proceedings finally begin. Considering Tristan and his mother, I am fully aware that they will fight fiercely to claim money from me. Fortunately, I am prepared for this. Update 2. In the 4 months since my last update, the divorce proceedings with my husband keep dragging on, making it an utterly exhausting process. Predictably, Tristan's lawyer seems determined to stretch out the divorce proceedings, showing no interest in reaching a settlement anytime soon. Tristan continues his attempts to manipulate the situation. He's fighting tooth and nail, perhaps realizing that his plan for easy financial gain is slipping away. It's a painful reminder of the person I thought I knew. It's like he has made it a mission to make this process as arduous as possible. Amidst the legal battles, I find solace in my decision to secure my assets beforehand. The only thing keeping me sane through all of this is the unwavering support I have received from my brother David and his wife Kim. Their support helps me get through the toughest days. It's during these moments that you truly appreciate the importance of family. David and Kim keep reminding me that I deserve better and that this storm will eventually pass. I try to believe them, but the constant legal back and forth make it hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yet, the strength I found within myself surprises even me. As the divorce proceedings drag on, I find moments of clarity. I reflect on the person I used to be and the person I am slowly becoming. A resilient individual who refuses to be defined by the scars of my past. Update 3. Hey there, it's been a while since I spilled the beans on what's going on. Guess what? Tristan and I, we are officially done. The divorce papers are signed, sealed, and delivered. It's a mix of relief and a bit of disbelief. Finally, I can put the X in front of my husband and move on to the next chapter of life. Feels like I just finished a marathon, but hey, I made it to the finish line. As for everyone who was worried about my inheritance and my investments, I didn't mention this before as I was preoccupied with my divorce. After the passing of my parents and the finalization of my divorce, everything fell into place as planned thanks to the meticulous steps taken by us earlier. I regained control of my inheritance, including the sale proceedings from my house. David, being the supportive brother he is, promptly handed back all the investments I had entrusted to him. This transition allowed me to stand on my own 2 feet, free from any lingering financial ties with Tristan. I currently have a new job as a part-time bookkeeper. I'm still not ready to get back into my old job as a real estate agent full-time. This new job is a breath of fresh air, something different from what I've been used to. It feels like a clean slate, you know? New colleagues, new challenges, and seems like a small personal victory to help me get back on my feet. Outside the office, I've been reconnecting with friends and family. It's like hitting the refresh button on all my relationships. I've even started a little hobby on the side. Turns out I have a knack for painting. Although the legal battles have now come to an end, what awaits beyond that remains uncertain. I miss my parents every day, especially now that I live alone. Yet I find solace in the knowledge that they loved me and my brother deeply during that time with us. One thing is for sure, I'm ready to face whatever comes my way, armed with the lessons I have learned and the strength I have gained through adversity.